radio network at paranormalking.com.
Welcome to the Paranormal News Insider for the week of October 15th, 2019, and this is officially episode number 411. Yes, I've got the 411 tonight on the Paranormal News. And of course, yes, this is your host, Dr. Brian D. Parsons, and we are live right here on the Paranormal King radio network at paranormalking.com. And we have got a packed show tonight. I don't know what happened, what's in the water, what's going around, but there is a lot of paranormal news falling all over the place. So we got stuff from cryptid, we got some Bigfoot news, we've got some UFO stuff, and we've got some ghost news in the news, finally, for a change. We got some ghost stories, not those kind of ghost stories, but feel free to start a crackling fire. Just don't set your socks on fire. Yeah, all kinds of stuff tonight. We're going to be talking alligators, weird creatures, Bigfoot, MUFON, UFOs, Ouija boards, and the big news about Amelia Earhart. If you haven't heard about that, well, you're going to have to wait. Don't Google it. Don't ruin it. Stay tuned for that big announcement tonight, right here on the Paranormal News Insider with your host, Dr. Brian D. Parsons, coming to you from, I don't know, it's a little chilly here in Northeast Ohio. And I do want to welcome all of you who are here because the Democratic presidential debate has taken over your televisions. I usually get a decent crowd on those yeah, I said socks. I usually get a little bit of a crowd on nights like this when the debates are taking place. For some reason, I don't know. People just give up on all that stuff. But yes, and it's in Ohio. And what's weird about that is the Democratic presidential debate is taking place at Otterbein University in Westerville, Ohio. And that's pretty much exactly where I'm going to be tomorrow night, actually down the street at the Westerville Public Library. It's within walking distance, about 0.3 of a mile, one street over, pretty much. I could walk there very easily. So kind of cool. But hopefully the traffic is here on the show tonight and the traffic is down there tomorrow night. That would be great. Still room left, I think. Not much to see me down there at Westerville at the public library. And don't want to take too much time to talk about these events, but a couple that I want to note here, and man, a whole bunch got crossed off my list this week off of the paranewsinsider.com website, where you can find a list of all these paranormal conferences, conventions, UFO conferences, conventions, and cryptid conferences and conventions. We do have the third annual Central PA Paranormal Convention. You know, they play on paranormal there with the word Pennsylvania. Okay, I think you got it. That is October 18th through the 20th in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And the only other October event I did have on the calendar has been postponed. That's the October Haunt Fest 2019. That was supposed to take place on October 30th in Cayuga, Indiana. That's been postponed. No word on when that is going to take place. And that's it, really, for October as far as ghost events. No UFO events. But as I mentioned, tomorrow night I will be live at the Westerville Public Library. So that's Wednesday, October 16th. Tomorrow, or today, whenever you're listening to this, I suppose, I'll be at the Westerville Public Library in Westerville, Ohio, which is in northeast of Columbus. And this will mark my 11th consecutive year at that library. Very excited about that. And hopefully there's, people are ready for another event down there, a big event. I might not draw as many as the debates, and I don't know if I'll be on TV or not, but we'll see what kind of a crowd I can draw down there. 2019 Texas Bigfoot Conference takes place October 18th and the 19th in Jefferson, Texas. and the Tennessee Bigfoot Conference, October 25th through the 27th in Kingsport, Tennessee. And that's it for October. And man, I'll tell you what, it is it's rounding down. We're halfway through, almost officially halfway through the month of October already. Where is this year going? It's crazy. Next thing you know, we're going to have that white stuff all over the ground. I don't want to talk about that yet. Oh, and tomorrow at the Westerville Public Library, just to, I don't know, talk about it for the fourth time, my theme this year is going to be creepy creatures of cryptozoology. That's what the guy wanted me to talk about, so that's what I designed for this. I'll be talking about creepy cryptid creatures from all over the world. And with a little bit of a focus on Ohio, but talking about a lot of different stuff. So I'm excited about that, the 11th consecutive year. Anyway, let's jump into the news. What do you say? There's a lot of news going on. So much news that I had to kind of push some stuff off for next week, I do believe. Yeah, I think it's, there's a couple stories that I kind of nixed for the meantime, but we'll get back to those. But I'm excited to finally have a week where I have news in every one of my categories for a change. But cryptid news, well, why not? Let's start off with alligators. It's been the topic all year long. I don't know why. 1 year it's clowns, 1 year it's mountain lions, 1 year it's something else. There's always like a focus. It seems like these stories just keep coming back and back and back. But alligators, that's the word of the year in cryptozoology for 2019, it seems like, at least for me. So last week, if you remember, I did talk about the 5th sighting of an alligator in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area of the year, and the 7th taken out of the city as well overall this year. So 2 others were seized from a home where a 5.5-foot long alligator named Chomp escaped from a home and was quickly and luckily spotted by neighbors and recaptured. Sadly, the homeowner had too many animals living in bad conditions, and 2 alligators were taken along with many other animals, and the owner was charged with animal cruelty. So 7 alligators taken out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They don't normally live there, in case you were wondering about that. 2 weeks ago, I talked about how alligators are now naturally moving into the state of Tennessee. And all year long, I've mentioned a few other eastern and midwestern states that have had some random alligator sightings. The biggest one of the year, I would have to say, is the Chicago incident, which was they actually had a contest to get the name of this alligator, and it was finally drawn to Chance the Snapper. That's what he was named, Chance the Snapper. That story got worldwide attention. It was a pretty big story, probably one of the biggest in cryptozoology for the year. I've also said that as the weather gets colder, we'll eventually not hear these stories, since alligators can't survive long in cold conditions. But as does sometimes happen, I was a little wrong. I was a little off on that. It's not gotten too much colder, but we've had a few cold nights the last couple of days here in Ohio. So I'm sure the same is the same around here in the eastern part of the United States. But yes, mid-October, another alligator sighting. And this one pretty much the furthest northeast of the year. Officials in Adamstown, Maryland, responded to calls of a small alligator sunning itself on the muddy banks of a retention pond. Thursday and Friday, they tried various techniques to capture the 2.5 to 3 foot long alligator, but they came up short. They finally used a live animal cage with food bait and finally captured the alligator sometime between Friday night and Saturday morning. Do have some pictures, lots of pictures. Dita picked a good night to come back here, I guess. Lots of pictures tonight to accompany these stories. I like to add another dimension. Not that kind of dimension, just a dimension of having photographs accompany these stories. I think it's a good thing to, when you're talking about these things, to have actually something to go along with that. Got plenty of pictures of this dude. Let's see, where is he at? Here's a montage, as they say in France, I think, of a couple of pictures that were taken and posted by the local authorities on this creature. Not sure if it's going to work. And they're not used to catching these things because it's Maryland. They don't have an alligator problem. They don't normally see alligators up there. So, yeah, of course, it took them a little while. They didn't contact the alligator wrangler like the people up there in Chicago did. So if you're in there in the chat room, you see there's 3 pictures kind of put together. The top left is there he is. There's the alligator just sitting out there sunning himself. There's one of them actually swimming, and there's another one there on the right that shows him hanging out on the muddy bank. You can see a truck in the background, so you can kind of see it's a small area. It's a small retention pond. It's not anything that you're going to go and put chairs up and hang out and go skiing on or anything like that. He's pretty decent size, 2.5. I think he was measured finally at 3 feet. Is that what I read? Upon coming back at 6:30 in the morning on Saturday morning, Carroll Manor Volunteer Fire Chief Mike Smallwood told ABC7 that he shined a light into the cage and saw the unmistakable glow of the alligator's eyes staring back at him. The alligator did measure in at just under 3 foot and was estimated to be about 6 months old. So more than likely not born in this retention pond. More than likely, sadly, dumped off. Not like we don't want to hear that, but that's, unfortunately, that's what happens. The alligator was transported to the Catoctin Zoo and Wildlife Preserve about 25 miles north, which already has just over a dozen alligators in its own exhibit. So hopefully this gator will find a home, get some friends, and hang out and live out its life. Entertaining people, I guess. I don't know what else. The Maryland alligator. I don't know what his name is. I don't know if they did or not name this dude. So Adamstown is south of Frederick, Maryland, and about 45 miles northwest of Washington, D.C. I don't know, maybe, never mind. I'll leave the politics to the politicians, but it's kind of funny to see an alligator, you know what I'm saying, near D.C., just saying. And for the Pennsylvania kind of tie-in, so this Adamstown is about 35 miles south of Pennsylvania, pretty close. And it is illegal in the state of Maryland to privately own an alligator. That's a pretty important thing there. But again, it's more than likely, just like all of the other alligator sightings in the East and Midwest this year, this was one that's pretty much just tossed out into the wild from someone who didn't or couldn't take care of it. Very sad, in that regard, that people just dump these things off into the wild like that. They won't survive in those conditions. It will not live very long, especially with the harsh winters that that accompany Maryland. It's just not. Yeah, don't do that. It's animal cruelty. It's like, I don't know, goldfish. No, I guess it's not that bad, but just don't do it. Don't. If you got an alligator, surrender it to somebody else. Don't just throw it out into the water. And there's your link in the chat room as well. So I'm passing out, not only showing photographs of these stories, but also posting links in the chat room so you can follow along with some of the links that I have for these stories that might be a little bit different or have a little bit more information, or at least current, more up-to-date information than some that you might find by a basic Google search. I do my best. And but that's not the biggest story in cryptid news. No. We have a true cryptid story. I know people don't like the alligator stuff because we're just dumping them off. People are dumping them off. They're not making their way there. They're not parachuting into Pittsburgh and Maryland and all these places. They're not creeping their way up. Although I do have one comment about that. Weird stuff. I mentioned that 2 weeks ago I talked about how they're creeping into Tennessee for the first time. They're establishing themselves in that state for the first time. But researchers have made it aware that they're aware of an alligator in Arkansas that is way further north than what they're used to. And they've been keeping an eye on this dude. And they say that it's because of flooding and potentially that the temperatures have been higher, that this alligator has moved pretty far north, farther north than any alligator has been noted in Arkansas. And they do naturally occur in Arkansas, so that's not really why I didn't focus on that story. But I just thought that was a little weird that alligators are moving north. So, yeah, I might have to move into Canada pretty soon because I certainly don't like those dudes at all. And that's going to be the last time I will use the word dude tonight. Maybe. We shall see. So a true cryptid story, not just something that's been dumped off by people, but what in the world is this thing? And these are my favorite kind of stories because we don't know what these things are, and people get all excited about what these monsters are. So Thailand is the location of a video that popped up on YouTube. Where else would a video pop up in this day and age? It's got to be YouTube. So YouTube, the channel Toothless Vlogs, which is kind of a paid channel. So I'm a little weary about this video. But on October 7th, it popped up on YouTube, and it was titled, quote, "Strange Creature Caught on Cam," unquote, not camera, cam. And of course, in true cryptid form, the video is only 39 seconds long. Why would we want anything longer, right? But even though it's only 39 seconds, the actual action in this video only lasts about 5 seconds. Of course. Of course. Only 5 seconds. And the rest is just your basic run-of-the-mill slow motion replay, because that's what we like to do. Slow motion replays. Excellent. In the video, we see a strange-looking creature. I don't know if you know this, but on YouTube, you can slow the speed down on your own. You don't have to have somebody else do that for you. Not sure if anybody knows that technical stuff. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Am I the only one that knows you can play it at half and quarter speed and all this stuff? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so in the video, we see a strange-looking creature at the surface of the water with its head out. And the camera pans. It's kind of going with the object. And then we kind of begin to lose sight of it. And the camera pans toward where the camera person is, and that is on a boat. So then we see the boat is passing by this object. And then, of course, they slow motion. Well, yeah, you can speed it up, too, if you want to watch fast stuff. It's pretty funny to watch boats and stuff move in fast motion. So what is this thing? A lot of speculation. A lot of guesses, and a lot of I don't know, a lot of people thinking that this is some kind of weird animal. And people are getting pretty creative, I think, with some of their guesses. Now, some say it looks like a turtle without a shell. Some say a seal. I don't know. When was the last time you've seen a turtle without a shell? I don't think they live very long without that. Anyway, some say seal. Some think it's a duck. Talk about ugly ducklings. Or other type of bird. Others think it's a fish, a squid, or even an octopus. Some say that maybe it's a half seal, half octopus creature. I don't know if they, listen to Barry White music and get romantic, seals and octopi, but who knows? Who knows? And some have even guessed that maybe this is just a ploy for a new Pokemon. A new Pokemon. Does anybody play that anymore? It's 2019, kids. Yeah, I know they just released the Unova Pokemon. Not that I play it, but Maybe I do. Anyway, Pokemon. I don't know about that. While some people think it's a living and breathing creature, others feel this creature is just a carcass of a once living creature, either a turtle, a duck, bird, fish, or of course something else. But people are focused on the fact that there are eyes on this creature. Well, we don't really know that those are eyes. It just looks like they're eyes. And of course, there's always those people that just cry hoax and say that this is just some sort of fake object in the water, and the video was created for viral means. Of course. Go back to eating your cereal in mommy's basement. Yes, I do agree that the video is being used for viral means. It hit the YouTube network. So right there, that kind of tells you all you need to know. And it does appear that it's used for viral purposes, especially the channel that it's on. This channel is fairly new, and he's pumping out a lot of things that are trying to be viral in nature, or news events and things like that. So yeah, I'm a little weary of where the video is posted and the content, but who cares about that? What is in the video? Some people did speculate that the object might actually not even be a creature, but might be some kind of plant, kelp, something like that. Well, you know me. Come on. I'm skeptical. And when I was looking at this, immediately I instantly thought that this was an animal, but it doesn't look like any animal I've ever seen. And I kind of studied it and watched it move and realized that I don't think it's moving at all. It's just kind of there. And it does kind of resemble a root or bulb of an ocean-going plant that's been uprooted. And I think we're seeing it upside down. That's why we don't really recognize it. Also could be kelp. And I've seen bits of this in the ocean over the years. And this part of the plant that we're seeing that looks like a head would be called a bladder or a float. It's hollow and filled with gas, so it's designed to actually keep the blades, which is the part of the plant, floating toward the sunlight underwater. I do have a picture here that I'll share with you that I've kind of posted together, and this is another one that I need to get going on one of these days. I got to get to write my blog. My goodness, I'm so far behind on stories. So there he is. Get him in the chat room for you guys. So you're missing out if you're not in the chat room. Unless I get my lazy bones around to writing a blog and sharing these stories, you may never see them, these pictures that I put together here. So, and we're waiting, and we're waiting. But anyway, as the camera goes by, like I said, the object doesn't seem like it's moving. It just seems like it's kind of there. And you think about an animal, if you've ever been in the ocean, most animals are not very good with people. They tend to shy away from humans. Yeah, I'm not sure about this. So a lot of people, again, claim this object has a head. It's a head and eyes, which if you do look at the picture, it looks like it's shaped like a seal's head, and the front of it's kind of whitish, and it looks like it has a nose. But I think what we're seeing is pareidolia. I think our eyes and our mind are putting together that this is a head based on the shape and the shadow. It's awful convincing, but there's no motion of the object as the boat goes by. Like I said, the only movement is caused by the waves of the boat. And any living creature would have swam away at the sight or sound of an approaching boat. A seal would never have put itself in that position. Seals are so good that even if you turn your head to look at a seal, it will go underwater. They're very adept and very aware of their surroundings and would never let themselves get close to a boat like that, even one that begs for food. They would react a lot differently. And I don't think that's what we're looking at. I don't think we're looking at a living, breathing creature. I would say I would lean more towards the plant based on the body structure, and that headpiece, I'm telling you, looks just like parts of plants. It's just the light and shadow playing a trick on us. But we will never know because We don't know when the video was actually shot. We don't know exactly where. They say Thailand, but we don't know exactly where or who shot this video at this point. And if it were something that mysterious, I think one would have gone back or stopped the boat and looked. I'm pretty sure that these locals who filmed this or looked in the water probably knew what this was. And if you're that close, you probably have a pretty good idea as to what it is. So again, that's probably why we're seeing it here in the United States on YouTube, and we're talking about it on a paranormal radio show, because it's probably not what we think it is. But we can't say it until we actually get any information. But I would seriously doubt that this is an actual living, breathing creature. I mean, marine life is not that conducive with these things going by like that. Anyway, I think people in Thailand are laughing at us. Yes, I do. I think they're having fun. And I don't think it was intentional, shot that way to be mass-produced or thrown onto a website. I think just somebody saw this somewhere. It's probably part of a longer video. They saw it and just said, hey, I can probably make a creature out of that, even though they said it was a shell or something like that. They probably already, it was probably no big deal on the video. And they probably cut parts of it off. Yeah, but I don't think the people who shot that had the intention. I think the people who saw it later on had the intention of making a little bit of money from it. But who's to say this could be some weird animal? I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. You can take that and do what you want with it. You can throw it out the window. You can melt it down. You can, I don't know, whatever you want. Anyway, that is our strange, weird story. And I'll even throw the YouTube video if you want, or I can throw the story in the chat room. And again, all these links, I will be sharing these links, probably not the pictures, but at least these links I'll be sharing throughout my social media outlets, Facebook and Twitter, which are joined together. So if you have either one of those and you like one or the other, feel free to follow those, and you will get all of those links. I only put it in there once. I don't know why it showed up. Okay, there it is. So say it was like in there 3 times. Anyway, moving on from Thailand, we're going to go to North Carolina. Why not? Well, it's been a while. It's been a long while. I can't tell you when the last time we had a Bigfoot story on the show. I'm not sure when. I mean, I should know because this is my show, but I can't tell you. I don't know. It's been a while since Bigfoot has been on the Paranormal News Insider, but he's back. Or she's back. It's back. Whatever it is. And we've got some proof here, apparently. Electrician Joe Scarborough was working on a home in Caesar, North Carolina, when he came upon some tracks that were, well, let's just say pretty big. Pretty big. He says that was, quote, it was 13 or 14 inches. And so I went back to the truck and got the tape measure and went back down there, and it was fresh, unquote. He added he could tell the tracks were fresh due to small plants being pressed down in the mud. He also says he's going to head back out with game cameras to the area to investigate. Why not? Caesar is located toward the western part of the state, where a majority of these Bigfoot claims have come from, especially in the last few years. North Carolina has become a very, very big hotspot of Bigfoot activity in the last few years, especially. Lots of stories coming from the Tar Heel state, some funny, some good, and some interesting, some just really out there. But Marion, which is about 30 miles northwest of Caesar, is the home, well, I guess the central point of the Bigfoot 911 group that we've talked about here on the show quite a bit over the last couple of years, which boasts 12,000 members on its Facebook group on Facebook. The state has been in the news quite a bit in the last few years in regards to Bigfoot sightings. So this group and the state probably related to that. So, yeah, and it all started in Georgia for the show, the Georgia Bigfoot hoax of 2008. It's where the show got its start. So, I got to give out the kudos where they are due, I guess. And from there, we're going to UFO news. So grab your space boots, your helmets, and your oxygen tanks, and let's go into outer space. It's pretty quiet out there. You don't hear jets in space or spaceships in space. Anyway, MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, one of the largest investigative groups in the world, has released the sighting statistics for September of 2019. So September saw a total of 652 sightings worldwide last year, or this year, some year, I don't know when, this year. Now, this is the third highest total of the year so far, and this ties the highest mark for the month for going back, let's see, 3 years? Ties the 2016 total as well, which is weird. 652 sightings in 2016. It's the highest since then. So, I don't know, we had a big UFO thing going on there in Nevada, right? So, I don't know if that had anything to do with it last month. So, the United States, out of these 652 total worldwide reports, the United States had the most with 507. Of course, that's because MUFON is based here in the United States, and most of the people who investigate for that group are also here in the United States. The United Kingdom was the second highest number of reports turned into MUFON with 43. And Canada, guys are lacking. These guys are falling behind. Come on, man. Can't let the UK do that to you. Canada had 39. That's a lot of land. It's a lot of area not to have too many UFO sightings. Australia had 6. Portugal, Puerto Rico, and Ireland had 5 reports each. And 24 other countries, sorry guys, not really worth mentioning because you had less than 4. And 14 of those 24 only turned in 1 report each. Now it's also fair to note that a lot of these other countries, they have their own major UFO reporting centers and investigators in them. So they don't worry about us in the United States because they've got their own things. And, if MUFON doesn't have a big footprint in those states, of course, they're not going to get a whole lot of reports from them as well. So breaking down the U.S. reports, the 507 U.S. UFO reports, California led the way with 55, as they usually do, because California has the number one state in population. So technically, mathematically, statistically, they should lead. So 55 for California. Florida had 38. Texas had 29. Ohio had 22. Pennsylvania, New York, North Carolina, and Arizona had 20 reports each. That's pretty strong. New Jersey and Washington turned in 18 reports each. Nevada had 17. Indiana, Colorado, and Tennessee had 15 reports each. Illinois and Missouri had 13. And Virginia had 11. And while I could read off all these states, 31 other states turned in 9 or less reports, with West Virginia, Louisiana, and Oklahoma all only turning in 1 report. Come on, guys. You could do better than that, especially West Virginia. Come on, you guys have plenty of UFO sightings down there. So looking at the per capita, and basically all I do for that is take the number of reports, divided by the total population, and then multiply it by 100,000, because that's your average, per capita, number. So per 100,000 is the number that we're looking at. And unfortunately, other percentages. So yeah, not quite a whole person per 100,000. We do have a couple that were, well, nobody was close to 200,000 per capita, or 1 in 200,000. But we had some decent numbers. Granted, these are not the strongest numbers that MUFON has had, and numbers have declined over the last 4 years or so. They really peaked out a few years ago when they had the Hangar 1 television show on. MUFON was getting a lot of attention. And now with some of the stuff going on in the news with UFOs, people really aren't paying too much attention to MUFON, I don't think, anymore. I mean, do you think that UFOs would be a hot topic? But it seems that MUFON, and I mean, as well as some of the internal conflicts they've had as of late as well, might be kind of hurting these numbers a little bit. But they're not super strong. But I still like to look at the per capita because it kind of gives you a perspective as which state really had a kind of a big deal about the number of sightings. So California with 55 sightings, that sounds like a lot, and they led the way by a lot. I mean, 55 over Florida's 38. That's a lot of sightings. But when you look at the per capita, it's only 0.138. Again, California being the number one state in state population, 0.138. So, I don't know, like an elbow and a pinky of one person of 100,000. So not even a whole person here. North Carolina, which is number 9 in state population, had a 0.192 per capita with their 20 sightings. So they had a higher per capita with less sightings because they have less of a population. It's pretty easy math, I think. Indiana, which is 17th in state population, had a per capita of 0.224. So almost a quarter of a person out of per 100,000. And the 15 sightings. So Indiana 17 in state population, 0.224 with 15 sightings. Connecticut, number 29 in state population, had a 0.224 as well, but only 8 sightings. So give Indiana the nod so far. But wait, there's more. Washington state, that is, has their 13th in state population. They had a 0.239 with 18 sightings in the month of September. That's a pretty strong showing. Kansas, 35th in state population, had a 0.24 per capita, but only 7 sightings. We have Colorado. I don't know how serious we can take Colorado UFO sightings. Anyway, something about some clouds in the air over that state constantly. 21st in state population, 0.263 per capita with 15 sightings. And, oh, good, somebody got that. Alaska, 48th in state population, 0.271. So almost 3/4 of a person per 100,000. That's pretty strong. But again, state population pretty low. So they only had 2 sightings. So it doesn't take much to make Alaska jump up really high like that. Arizona, 14th in state population, 0.279, 20 sightings. They must have had an air show out there with parachuters jumping out of a plane with flares on their feet. Did cover that story. Didn't see it, but I'm just guessing. Montana, 43rd in state population with a 0.282 with a whopping 3 sightings. Vermont, again, here's another state. Vermont, 49th in state population, 0.319, but 2 sightings to its credit. So not very strong there. New Mexico, 36th in state population, had a 0.334. But again, only 7 sightings. And Wyoming, why not? Wyoming, 50th, dead last in state population. Probably more cows than people. Probably more rabbits than people. Well, definitely more rabbits than people. 0.346 per capita with just 2 sightings. And pretty much all of those, I mean, all these numbers, they're pretty statistically insignificant when you're talking about basically 1 per 400,000 people seeing a UFO, or reporting a UFO, that is. But we still got to continue to look at the data, look at the information, continue to collect these sightings, and hopefully they're really looking at these objectively and trying to determine whether or not there's any, anything good to come out of these sightings. But as long as they're collecting them, as long as we have a decent number of sightings, we'll continue to talk about these and hope that this show can help get people to report their stuff to MUFON, which, I may not agree with some of the stuff that they do, and I'm actually no longer a MUFON member, but I think that all in all, you got to have something like this, a central collection agency to kind of put this stuff together. And MUFON, they've been doing it for a while, so we shall see. Gosh, I haven't made a prediction in a long, long time, and I was really good at it for a little while. Then I got way off. I was not even close on my predictions. So let me think here. I'm going to predict. Let's go. All right, we're going to go with 570 worldwide and 374 U.S. sightings. That's my prediction. We'll see. I'll be way off, I'm sure, but we shall see. And I just came up with that now. I didn't even think about it. 570 and 374 here in the U.S. So we shall see. And that's it. That's it for... No. There's one more. I do have one quick thing. It's not really UFO related, but it could be UFO related, tied to these reports. Now, sometimes people see things in the sky. They're not sure what they're seeing, and they interpret it as a UFO. Granted, if you don't know what something is in the sky and it's flying, it's an unidentified flying object. So, okay, I agree with you. It's a UFO. Unfortunately, people take the term UFO to mean alien-powered spacecraft, usually. But if you are, and I'll have the show next week, so it's not like, but I probably forget. So that's why I'm talking about this now. Skywatchers beware. So next week will be the height of the annual Orionid meteor shower. So yearly Orionid meteor shower taking place. Kind of peak out next week. October 22nd and 23rd for next week, but it's going to be muted a little bit because of the moon, of course, being bright during the time. So your best bet is just before dawn on October 23rd, before it starts getting a little light out, as this is after the moon sets. So it's pretty much the darkest the sky is going to be before the sun starts coming up. But that's pretty much for us here on the East Coast of the United States. I don't know how it's going to be where you are. The Orionids get their name due to the perspective that these meteors radiate from the constellation Orion. The meteors will be extremely fast hitting the atmosphere here on Earth at about 148,000 miles per hour. It's pretty fast. And this is due to the Earth hitting debris left behind by Halley's Comet. And they're hitting that, I should say we're hitting that. We're all on this rock together. Believe it or not. We're all here together, folks. This big rock spinning in space, spinning through the Milky Way galaxy in our little solar system together. So we're hitting Halley's Comet, the stream left behind, head on. So that's why it's 148,000 miles per hour, hitting these little rocks, and they're burning up in the atmosphere. And those of you that don't know, I saw it. I was around for this. Halley's Comet last appeared near Earth back in 1986. 1986. That's when MTV, this is so long ago, that MTV actually showed videos more than anything else. That long ago. Yeah, it's before cell phones too. We didn't have cell phones back then. Anyway, it's not projected to be back until 2061. While I hope I'm around for that, I kind of hope I'm not at the same time. I'd be kind of old by then, but we'll see. Maybe I will. My little wheelchair that floats above the ground. We'll see. I don't know. But we'll continue to pass by leftover debris every year between now and then, at least. So keep your eyes in the skies, as I say here on the show. And Dita says she's going to be old and cranky. Well, I think she's like that now, right? Oh, anyway, ghost news for us tonight. We've got some ghost news finally in the news. It's kind of scary. Scary stuff. It's scary in a different way. To me, this is kind of scary that people actually thinking this is real. So I'm going to talk about it. And this was sent to me by a friend of mine. I didn't actually find this immediately on my news wire, which, by the way, I want to mention, I just found out that my news on my website is not working. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to try to figure it out and try to get that back as soon as I can for all you guys that are looking at that on a daily or weekly basis. I'm aware of the problem, and I'm going to try to get that fixed as soon as I can. No promises. But anyway, this story was sent to me, and it's about Bungalow. So Bungalow is a real estate service, basically a website that offers a hassle-free way to buying a home. The service is only available in the Dallas, Fort Worth, Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville, and Tampa areas for now. But they've created a clever way to get some attention in these markets, especially. So Bungalow likes to help homeowners have a peace of mind when buying their house. And one big thing that every homeowner worries about, especially in October, is ghosts. Okay, so not everyone worries about ghosts in their house, but what if you could have your home inspected prior to buying? You know, everybody wants their home inspected prior to buying, right? No. I don't mean for foundation issues, plumbing or electrical issues, pest problems, leaking basements, carbon monoxide, radon leaks. That's all easy stuff to fix, right? Nobody cares about that stuff. That's not a big deal. Who cares about the roof, right? No big deal. You just get a new one. Simple, cheap, easy to fix. But what about ghosts? I mean, that's right. For the month of October, Bungalow is offering a paranormal inspection report free of charge. Wow, you can't beat that. So how does this work? Well, rest assured, Bungalow has brought in what it says are, quote, and this is the scary part, quote, known experts in the paranormal sciences, utilizing their keen insight into the paranormal world and latest realm-to-realm communication technology. These paranormal pros have examined our homes from top to bottom for anything out of the ordinary, unquote. But that's not all. The website also states that, quote, the inspectors then disclose their findings to you, the homeowner, through an official paranormal inspection report, which you can find on any listings document vault on our website. If an inspector does encounter any unwanted paranormal activity in a home, the space in question will be properly cleansed for the buyer's peace of mind, unquote. Oof. Cleansed. So you're going to force ghosts and spirits into another realm against their will. That sounds peaceful. Sounds peaceful. I don't know. I'm kind of against all that stuff. I get it. I get it. Cleansing is to make the living feel better. Okay. Anyway, the official blog of Bungalow has a description of the services as well as an example of a field report, which I do have a copy of that. I'll show in the chat room. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. This is a little wacky to me, to be honest. I know that people have talked about these before. I know their bungalow's not the first one to do this, but the first one to really push this as a legitimate thing. They even got a video. There's a YouTube video on this. So in the chat room, I don't know if it's there, if you guys can see it yet. Okay, there it goes. So you can see this paranormal report. You can click on it, and it'll open up in a separate window. So you can see all the little things. I don't know who signed that. Looks like a doctor. But one thing that jumped out to me that I rolled my eyes so hard I got a headache for 3 days was that there's a box or an area with boxes, check boxes. It says, during your investigation, did you find evidence of any of the following? And it says voices, shadows, apparitions, cold spots, hot spots, unexplained movement, rapping, knocking, feelings of being watched, unexplained electrical fields, and of course, orbs. Orbs. Really? Wow. Anyway, yeah, back to the story. There is also, like I said, a video that showcases what this paranormal inspection is all about. In the video, they show Becky Vickers as she inspects a home for paranormal activity. They also show Dustin Johnson, a bungalow field coordinator who looks at other things other than paranormal inspection reports. While he's in the home, he looks at real things that actually mean something. Of one of my favorite scenes is where Becky has the crew go through a protection ritual before she goes into her investigation. And Dustin doesn't look too convinced about this part, but it was all in jest. So he doesn't look very enthusiastic about this part. But and really, the video is shot as almost kind of, I don't want to say a joke, but I think, yeah, I don't think a lot of people are taking this seriously, but I think Becky is. But it's kind of funny to watch the video, and I'll post a link of that here in the chat room in a second. And of course, again, don't forget that as we progress through the week, all of these links will be shared in good time through Facebook and as well as Twitter. So Facebook / see, oh, look how serious he looks. Facebook / Paranews Insider, and on Twitter at Paranews Insider, of course. Yeah, I hope it was created in jest, basically kind of making fun of itself. So Becky states that not only has she been investigating the paranormal for over 35 years, but also, quote, I have a very scientific way of investigating the paranormal, unquote. And after she says this, we see her little bear, which is known as a Boo Buddy, which is about $260 online. A little teddy bear that has an EMF meter light in its stomach. It's kind of disturbing. Also a temperature gauge, probably in its butt, and responds with voices as well. So it talks to you. That's really, really spooky. She also shows off a spirit box and a REM pod. And none of these, by the way, hopefully they were just making fun of these devices. That's what my hope is. Because none of these are in the way of scientific devices at all. They're marketed for entertainment purposes only, but to each their own. They don't show much other than short clips of her holding tools and talking to herself as she finishes the job by smudging each house. The homes that will be inspected will only be in the Charlotte, Dallas, and Tampa areas, and will have either Becky Vickers of Beck's Ghost Hunters, who has appeared on Ghost Adventures and Ghost Stories, as well as Jeremy Rettig of Genesis Paranormal Services. So if you want to buy a clean, cleansed, ghost-free home with your own personal reports, you can go to those locations. And I'll throw the link to the blog, which has a link to the video in the chat room there, so you guys can feast on that at your leisure. Maybe. It's a little slow for me tonight. It's a little choppy. Things are popping in there 3, 4, 5 times. But as long as it works for the next, gosh, it's almost 9 o'clock already. Good grief. All right, so you want to buy a safe house, go to Bungalow. And also, just in time for Halloween, we got another good story here. It's about Ouija boards. Ouija boards. Who doesn't like Ouija boards? Okay, I saw a couple of you raise your hand. It's nothing to worry about. I mean, really, there's never been a scarier piece of cardboard to the world to grace this planet, with the with the exception of that standee in the movie 3 Men and a Baby. That was really scary to a lot of people, I guess. Over the weekend, we made it, though. We made it. We're all alive, I think. Unless this is all a dream. Could be. I often think that. Over the weekend, the world's largest Ouija board, cleverly named Ouijazilla, made its debut in where else but Salem, Massachusetts. The board was built by Rick Schreck and contains 99 individual sheets of plywood for the board itself and covering 3,168 square feet. It's like a hotel. Weighing in at 9,000 pounds. And that was before being hand-painted and stained. In case you wondered, yes, over 20 gallons of stain was used on the board. Now, the board is large enough to park 5 full-size 18-wheelers on it. And the planchet has an opening large enough for 4 people to stand in. That's big. That's really big. And nobody died. Nobody got hurt. Everything's fine. Nothing burned down. No one's possessed. Well, maybe a couple people. That's all right. It's 15 and a half feet in length, 10 feet wide at its widest point, and weighs about 400 pounds. That's just a planchet. That's big. The planchet was able to move over the board due to wheels being attached at the base. It's got 3 little bases on it. Ouijazilla now holds the record from Ripley's Believe It or Not as the world's largest Ouija board, surpassing the record. I think we talked about that here on the show as well. Back in 2016, set by the Grand Midway Hotel in Pennsylvania that had a giant Ouija board painted on its roof. Rick got the blessing of Hasbro Incorporated to construct the board since they are the owners of the board game. Yes, it's a children's board game. Rick has over 300 Ouija boards in his personal collection and has handcrafted some of his own in addition to Ouijazilla, and using some interesting materials such as human bone, human hair, and human ashes. And he plans on using a vintage coffin as a material for an upcoming project as well. And if that doesn't spook you out, I don't know what will. So I'll give you the official Ripley's.com link. Feast your eyes on the record. So yeah, I mean, I don't know why people are freaked out about these things. It's cardboard. So anything that really happens is created by your consciousness. It's created by you. So I don't know. But again, to each its own. Some people are just a little freaked out by that, and I don't. I've used Ouija boards for years. Never had anything happen to me. I've been at all kinds of little things like that. Never really had anything major happen to me ever. Anyway, speaking of things happening to people, poor Amelia Earhart. Well, I mean, what people say. She died doing what she wanted to do. I don't understand why people say that. Anyway, one of the greatest mysteries of all time will be explored once again this Sunday on the National Geographic Channel's Expedition Amelia. Amelia Earhart's plane disappeared from the skies back on July 2nd, 1937, and has remained as one of the most mysterious missing person cases in history. Bones discovered on the island of Nikimaroro back in 1940 were thought to have belonged to a European man when first analyzed a year later. The bones were then lost to time, but it's thought that maybe these tests were inaccurate, and it's a very popular belief right now that new DNA tests conducted on samples of this bone may tell a different story. It's thought that these bones do in fact belong to Amelia Earhart. So if these bones do belong to her, it's going to put to rest many of the theories behind her disappearance and death. It would mean that she more than likely survived the crash and survived on the island as a castaway. So this show is a predecessor, and they're doing the analysis now. It probably won't be out for a little while. But if this is in fact found to be true, this is going to be a big, big story, a big announcement that's going to send shockwaves through the scientific world and through the paranormal world, that this is finally put to rest. I think this is a big deal, but do I think it's going to come out that way? I don't know. I really don't have an answer for that. I'm going to sit back and wait for the evidence to present itself. That's all I'm going to do. I don't know. I kind of hope it's finally put to rest. I think it's long overdue for this mystery to have some answers to it instead of more speculation and conspiracy theories attached to it. Then we can worry about Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe and all the other things that are also unsolved mysteries at this time. So again, check your local listings for the show Expedition Amelia this Sunday night on the National Geographic Channel, as they're going to show basically happened last year, last August, September. It was like a 2-week expedition they did looking for signs, and they did dispute some evidence. So there's a little bit of new information on that show. I know you've probably seen dozens of shows on Amelia Earhart over the years, but this is going to have a little bit of update information. And of course, probably in the months that follow, probably not till, I would guess, maybe beginning of the year 2020, we may have a big announcement. If this is in fact, the bones do have DNA that prove that this body was Amelia Earhart that was buried on this island. So that being said, that's it. See you next week. Oh, wait, just kidding. I'll see you next week. But for now, keep your eyes in the skies, your ears in the woods, and of course, that hair standing on the back of your neck. And always keep your mind slightly ajar. And above all else, don't stop believing. For the Paranormal News Insider, this is Dr. Brian D. Parsons reporting